Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into leather boots that have been collecting dust since the Victorian era. And no, that's not a metaphor for your gym routine. Picture this: a gravel path crunches like stale bread under your feet, shadows stretching 43 paces ahead as twilight smudges the sky into watered-down ink. Those iron gates, they're not just decorative. Each spike's a reminder that manicured lawns bite harder than they look. You probably won't survive this if you skip the comments section. Trust issues with haunted estates are so 2023. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your coordinates below latitude, longitude, and whether your cat's judging you right now. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The stones beneath you aren't gravel technically. They're crushed limestone shipped from a Dorset quarry in 1897, a flex for some duke who thought his driveway deserved a passport. Twilight stains everything cobalt, even the air tastes like chilled metal. You're not the first to walk this path. A groundskeeper named Edwin paced here nightly, pocket full of acorns, convinced they'd grow faster if whispered to. Historians still argue whether he was a botanist or just spectacularly lonely. Your left boot grinds a pebble. It pops like a joint. The gates loom, 16 vertical iron spears capped with tarnished finials. One's bent inward, a dent from a carriage accident in 1912. Rumor says the driver claimed a ghostly hound lunged at the horses, but his flask was found empty. Touch the metal, it's colder than it should be. The Manor's silhouette pricks the horizon, gables jagged as a wolf's jawline. That flicker in the top left window, gone before you blink. Breathing feels heavier here, air thickened with the ghosts of landscaped roses. 3 crows loot the path ahead. One pecks at something that shimmers. Don't look too close. In 1923, a guest reportedly lost a diamond cufflink. Here, spent weeks sifting gravel with a teacup strainer. The crows scatter, wing beats snapping the tension like brittle twigs. Your shadows stretched so thin now it could slip under the gate. Ahead, the latch dangles open. Coincidence? Please. Estates like this love playing past the parcel with your sanity. That low hum isn't the fan you turned on, it's the vibration of 1,000 buried carriage springs, rusting in perfect unison. Step closer. The gates don't creak, they exhale. 2 ivy-choked pillars frame your view, each wrapped in chiseled laurels. Touch one. The leaves feel suspiciously warm. 12 steps to the threshold. Count them. At 7, your heel sinks, a dip worn smooth by a century of reluctant footsteps. Pause. The breeze carries lavender and something sharper, linseed oil. A gardener's unfinished chore. To your right, a plaque eaten by moss. Scrape it with your thumbnail. The words Tempus something, but the rest is lost. Tempus Fugit. Tempus snacks. The Manor's not telling. The last star winks awake, Venus, probably, or a satellite pissed you're ignoring its playlist. Your hands on the gate now, iron teeth biting your palm's heat. Push. It yields without sound, smooth as a blade through cream. Beyond lies a lawn so vast, so meticulously shaved, it could soften a billionaire's midlife crisis. But tread carefully. Victorian landscapers hid rabbit traps under the grass to keep it trim. Halfway across, you realize the gravel's gone silent. Your feet sink into velvet chlorophyll, each blade doing your ankles. The Manor's closer now, windows boarded like a sulking child's diary. That faint clink, a weather vane spinning lazy circles, its rooster pointing northeast, always northeast. Locals say it froze that way the night the Duke's wife vanished, but don't mention that to the Historical Society. You're 10 paces from the front steps when the moon snags on a chimney. Shadows wriggle free, a Rorschach test only your peripheral vision understands. The door's oak, studded with nails arranged in constellations. Or maybe that's the sleep deprivation talking. Reach for the handle. It's warmer than your skin. Some say brass absorbs sunlight, but it's been dark for hours. Coincidences are piling up like unread DMs. Breathe in the air's gone syrupy. A night blooming Sirius unfurls somewhere, though you'll never spot it. Those aren't fireflies, they're reflections off the greenhouse panes. Or maybe they're fireflies. The Manor thrives on ambiguities. Your thumb brushes the door's keyhole. It's pristine, no dust. Someone polished it recently, someone or something that doesn't need light to see. The lock clicks, not because you turned it, because the Manor decided you've passed the vibe check. The door swings inward, a yawn of mahogany and trapped sunlight. Step through, but here's the thing about thresholds. They're less about crossing, more about being digested. The gears of the house shiver awake, ticking like a wristwatch buried in wet sand. Behind you, the gate creaks shut. Lavender hooks your ankles first, its purple spikes brushing past like shy salesmen. Twilight turns the hedges into shadow puppets. 1 minute, a lion's mane. The next, a hunched scribe. Roman emperors soaked in the stuff. You know, tubs of lavender oil to drown out the empire's stink. Your breath hitches. A stealthy pollen grenade detonates. And suddenly, you're an accidental participant in ancient aromatherapy. The breeze carries a secret vanilla. No moonflower vines sneaking through the iron fence. Victorians whispered through these blooms once, tucking coded messages in bouquets, because apparently just talk to her was too direct. Historians still argue whether manor gardens prioritized beauty or pest control. Those roses could have been a squirrel border wall. Your sleeves flutter, veiled flags signaling surrender to the evening. That crunch underfoot isn't gravel anymore, just forgotten acorns rolled smooth by centuries of footmen and foxes. A whistle starts, maybe your lips, maybe the gap between 2 laurel leaves. Either way, the lawn approves, grass shushing the pebbles into silence. 3 fireflies hesitate, new hires unsure of the dress code. You half expect a Venetian blind effect as clouds slide west, but night prefers its reveal slow. Lean into the mint patch, plotting its coup by the stone bench. Those leaves aren't green there, the color of envy, if envy had a LinkedIn. Fun fact: rosemary here outlived the family terrier, 18 winters and counting. The hedge trimmings smell like bad decisions, citrus, and regret. There's a reason medieval peasants tossed this junk into moats, basic home security, with a spade twist. Damp creeps up your jeans, the grass repaying your visit with petty theft. Somewhere, a porch swing hiccups, chains rusted into amateur percussionists. You inhale deeper, chasing that apricot note hiding in the honeysuckle. Didn't they find Napoleon's exile letters scented like this? Or was that just a candle at TJ Maxx? The air thickens, a soup of pollen, loam, and the ghost of Earl Grey. Your pulse sinking now 2 beats for every cricket saw. That hollow by the oak, perfect for burying yard sale regrets or Saxon coins, if you're feeling optimistic. One more breath, muscles unknotting like tangled necklace chains. The dark tastes different here, less swallowed, more sipped. Even the mosquitoes respect the vibe, hovering like tiny helicopters, awaiting diplomatic clearance. Wind pirouettes, drops a maple key in your hair. You let it stay, a botanical clip-on reminding you that flight's just a spiral with style. Shadows pool where the birdbath tilts, water reflecting nothing but the courage to be empty. Zinnias nod, their colors muted to grayscale by the hour. A moth grazes your wrist, its wings the texture of legally dubious eyelash extensions. You count the cobwebs between tulip stems, 3 no, 4 nature's minimalist chandeliers. The world shrinks to this, a sneaker sinking into moss, nostrils full of stolen spice racks, and the unspoken pact between dusk and the crickets tuning up. Your shoulders drop, an overdramatic actor exiting stage left. This is how seasons turn, not with a fireworks finale, but the slow unfurling of scent through a rusty gate. The star arrives without fanfare, a hyphen blinking Morse code through violet gauze. You tilt your chin, vertebrae crackling like old radio static. Babylonian astronomers mapped these pinpricks on clay tablets. Did theirs feel this sharp? Some say imperial tutors taught Alexander the Great constellations between battles. But that's just grade school gossip with a toga filter. A bat swoops, its shadow erasing the star for half a breath. Your eyes readjust. There it floats, original app notification. Folklore claims sneezing under the first star invites ghosts, so maybe swallow that hay fever. Historians still argue whether medieval star charts guided travelers or just looked sexy in manuscripts. Compass roses need, love too. Dew seeps through your socks, nature's passive-aggressive footbath. The star winks democratic, shining equally on manor roofs, and the raccoon rifling through begonias. You count to 3, rural legend says that's how long wishes take to bypass celestial customs. If true, your 3rd grade plea for a pet dragon is still in paperwork. Breeze carries a new cord, wet soil, and burnt sugar from distant bakeries. Your stars gone plural now, 7 know, 8 each a hole punch in heaven's punch card. Catherine de Medici allegedly wore star maps as corset embroidery. Divine intervention meets corset intervention. Wish you could say the same about these cargo shorts. Twilight plays its final card indigo, bleeding into black. That first star's flanked by recruits. Now, an army of mayflies with tenure. You exhale breath, fogging the Milky Way's lens. Someone once glued phosphorus to pigeons to mimic starlight, 18th century rave culture at its finest. A satellite inches past, uninvited VIP in the Constellation Club. You track its path, trespasser or tourist. The moon finally pokes through, quarter-faced, like it caught the tail end of a secret. Your star holds its ground, alpha and omega of the evening shift. Fingertips brush nettles, electricity zipping up to the elbow. That's the tax for leaning too close to the willow's curtain call. Your retinas bloom with afterimages, starry graffiti on the night's blank CV. Romans thought stars were gods. Fingernail scratches, juries out on who needed a manicure. Cold pools in your collarbones, air conditioning, invented by shadows. The constellations rearrange, Great Bear doing yoga, Orion misplacing his belt. You mimic them arm raised, a human semaphore signaling, send better Wi-Fi. Grass prickles protest, marches up your calves. Historians still argue whether ancient star worshippers used hallucinogens. Those zodiac murals got real trippy after Scorpio. You blink, lids heavy as library books. And for one breath, the starfield mirrors the lawn's dandelion spores. Lightning bugs return fireworks in miniature. All ascent, no payoff. Your star dims, humility, or theater lights shifting, doesn't matter. You're already translating its pulse into a lullaby, the kind that erases alarm clocks and Mondays. Far off, a train whistle carves the dark, sound so lonely it glows. The first star trembles, or is that your pupils betraying you? Either way, it's closing time. You pocket the sight, souvenir for sleepless nights, when ceilings lack constellations. 3 slow steps back. The Manor's windows yawn amber now. That star winks once more, oldest meme in the cosmos, before dissolving into the crowd. You let it go. Same way clouds release rain. No RSVP required. Shoes abandoned somewhere behind you. Toes sink into grass like it's the world's chilliest welcome mat. Blades part each, step a handshake with 7,000 years of agrarian peer pressure. Did you know medieval monks grew chamomile lawns? Soft underfoot, better for barefoot penitence, and guaranteed 0 dandelion drama. Dampness climbs your arches. Someone left the sprinklers on cosmic mist mode. You wiggle toes, earth squelches. A sound Game of Thrones extras faked with wet leather. Victorians measured grass to prove shorter blades reflected moral character. Their rulers probably had trust issues. Night crawlers glisten half-speed subway system under your heel. Historians still argue whether Spartan warriors trained barefoot to toughen souls, or just hated cobblers. You sidestep a beetle, its armor gleaming like a tiny night late for Ren Fair. Soil's hum vibrates up your shins, nature's subwoofer set to existential bassline. Ancient Persians mixed rosewater into garden soil, rich people perfume. Avant la plague, you catch a whiff, earthy, with top notes of compost cheek. Knees dip, palm flat on the ground, some greeting humans unlearn after toddlerhood. Coolness seeps through skin, reverse fever breaking. 18th century nobles staged grassland duels, arguing over who invented the picnic. Spoiler. Ants won. A root snags your pinky toe, personal vendetta from the shrubbery mafia. You pause. Let the ache bloom proof your guest, not landlord. Renaissance foot fetishists wrote odes to dew-kissed heels. Poetry's weird cousin, no one invites twice. Moonlight lacquers the lawn, turning it into a static ocean. Your shadow stretches, Picasso's version of a human, all angles and borrowed time. Archaeologists found grass DNA in Ötzi, the Iceman's sandals, Neolithic fashion, stuck in permanent business casual. Dew soaks your hemline denim, now qualifying as a wetland ecosystem. Small price for discovering that moss grows softer, facing north, local secret, global shrug. Historians still argue whether Roman senators debated barefoot, togas plus flip-flops being the original Zoom shirt, pajama pants vibe. Wind rifles through the meadow grass, rippling like a celebrity's hair in slow-mo. You pluck a blade, split it lengthwise. Shakespearean love test meets middle school boredom. Grasshopper lands on your thumb, its joints creaking like a folding ruler. Ground softens where the old well leaks secrets, mud grabby as a toddler's hug. Slide 1 foot through it, air bubbles gasp, tiny swamp choir. Mesopotamians believed trampled grass whispered gossip to the underworld. 1st century yelp for dead people. Heel meets a stone worn smooth, fossilized peach pit of some antediluvian snack. Pocketed charm against forgetting today's ache tomorrow. 16th century herbalists prescribed grass poultices for heartbreak. Results pending peer review. Shivers climb your spine, thermostat set to damp crypt. Layback blades poke your shoulder blades like acupuncture gone feral. Cold seeps into your scapulae. Is this how lawns recharge? A moth grazes your ankle, flustered tourist mistaking flesh for porch light. You freeze, let it taste salt, and sunscreen mutual misunderstanding. No tip required. Byzantine emperors carpeted throne rooms with clover easy on the knees during those lengthy off with his head sessions. Lights flicker in the Manor's west wing, someone microwaving midnight regrets or rewatching Die Hard. Your toes curl, pulling earthward roots optional, but highly recommended. Grass exhales, rhythm synced to your slowing pulse, the planet's original metronome. When you rise, the imprint remains ghost of a body too brief to haunt properly. It'll vanish by dawn, ephemeral as candy floss, stubborn as your third-grade crush. Walk away. The lawn stitches itself behind you, seamstress of the dark. You round the hedge corner. A pair of shears lies spine up on a weathered bench, their jaws gape, half-moon blades singing silent duets with the dusk. Fingertip grazing a handle, the wood still holds noon's stubborn heat. Those 19th century ironmongers loved their scrollwork, every tool a pocket-sized cathedral. Gardeners once buried shears at crossroads during droughts, superstitious SEO to boost rainfall. One glove droops over the armrest, palm print evaporating like a rumor. Historians still argue whether topiary artists doubled as royal spies. Intricate hedges made perfect hiding spots for state secrets. Your pinky hooks the leather cuff, its size empty as a forgotten lunchbox. Rotting apples scent the air, compost's attempt at fine perfume. That Sussex blacksmith forged shears sharp enough they could split a shadow from its owner. Lean closer, rust freckles the steel, aging like a punk rock guitar left in the rain. Tudor groundskeeper manuals warned against touching abandoned tools. Said they carried green thirst from the fee-folk. You risk it anyway. Cold metal sings a two-note chord against your thumb. Someone left mid-snip, the eternal mystery of gardeners. Do they vanish or become what they tend? A snail traverses the lower blade, intrepid commuter on the chrome highway. Blink, it's already miles ahead in slug years. Check the ground, clover thrives where the shears fell, nature's passive-aggressive embroidery. Napoleonic soldiers repurposed pruning hooks as mustache combs desperate times. Questionable grooming, your shadow merges with the benches, joint custody of Twilight. The benches, legs sink into the soil, swallowed inch by century. You count 6 rings in the wood grain, each a summer of lemonade and blisters. 10 generations of worms built civilizations beneath these slats, Marxist utopia, with better composting policies. A splinter pricks your thigh, greeting card from the proletariat. Moonlight strips the shears of color. Now, just a charcoal sketch of potential. You squint, spot a name etched near the pivot. W. Jordain, 1897. Some apprentice's shaky signature immortalized in oak. Ever notice how old tools outlive their makers? Mortality's little joke, preserved in handles and hinge oil. Cobwebs stretch between the blades, Dutch still life. In 3D you blow. They shiver, become chandeliers for invisible banquet halls. 17th century tulip traders used shears as collateral until the bubble burst. Imagine shelves of rusting scissors in Amsterdam basements, floral futures rotting in silence. Wind kicks up, shears swing lazy as a drunkard's pocket watch. Catch them before they fall, metal teeth snap at your sleeve. Mistconnections.com entry. Seeking sentient gardening tool for philosophical walks at midnight. The glove flutters, wave goodbye to its ghost hand. Moss creeps up the bench, velvet mold plotting a velvet revolution. You peel a flake underneath. Woods as thirsty as a desert psalm. Hortense Bowater's 1912 gardening journal describes blisters from ill-tempered pliers. Wonder if W. Jordain's work pinched. Histories full of cranky tools and crankier users. Some things never shear. Crickets soundtrack the scene bowstrings against wings tuned to existential dread. Left blade holds a rain droplet, entire ocean in a mercury bead. Lean in, your breath pops it, worlds collapsing quietly on garden steel. Crimean war medics used shears to cut bandages, sanitation optional, desperation guaranteed. 3 nails protrude from the bench seat, rusty trident for a minor god. You press a thumb over them, diet acupuncture from the DIY pantheon. Medieval monasteries drove nails into yew trees, believed it purified wood for cathedral arches. This bench is holy only in its splinters. Saint Citolot of lower back pain. Midnight breeze carries a note, maybe wind chimes, maybe spectral secateurs. You pocket a fallen leaf, free bookmark for books you'll never finish. Royal gardeners wore silver shears on ceremonial belts. Elizabethan flex before flexing was a verb. The leaf crumbles. Greenwich Mean Time versus garden minutes. Different relativistic laws. When the Manor clock strikes 1, the shears shift, optical illusion or invitation. You mimic their angle, elbow bent, wrist cocked statue of indecisive Atlas. Groundskeeper's cottage window glows amber Netflix. Knitting. Taxidermy. We'll never nosy neighbor our way to clarity. Dew forms on the upper blade. Sky's sweat dripping onto the blade's brow. Lick it. Tastes of cloud slurry and 17 generations of English rain. Your tongue regrets nothing, embracing the microbial wonderland like a proper peasant. Ants march along the screw thread, union workers on mandatory overtime. You block their path, detour through the hinges, elbow grease biome. 18th century philosophers compared ant colonies to ideal societies. Never met these guys, clearly. Their pincers wave tiny picket signs only molecular biologists can read. Footsteps approach, freeze, then veer toward the compost heap's gurgle. False alarm, just the night shift sorting its digestive agenda. That's the gardener's secret. They're always half present, even when holding the shears. The willows loom ahead, branches raking the horizon like a pianist's fingers on Twilight's keys. You pause, air heavy with their sighing. A chorus of green whispers older than the Manor. Their bark's rough furrows hold stories. Egyptian healers once brewed tea from willow strips to numb warriors' wounds. Lean clothes smell the faint aspirin tang where sap meets rot sweetness. A leaf detaches, spirals down in slow motion defenestration of Prague. You lunge, it dodges, settles in grass like a rejected love letter. 17 cows once choked on willow leaves in Somerset, allegedly, after a farmer cursed the Duke's new dam. Your heel crunches the runaway foliage, nature's metaphor for effort versus entropy. Moonlight reveals a scar on the trunk, tentative initials inside a lopsided heart. Historians still argue whether riverside willows marked Roman burial sites or just really liked moist ankles. Trace the carving, splinters catch your skin, Timmy plus Clara, archived forever in arboreal snark. One low branch dips, inviting you to swing like a gibbon. On 5G, test it, wood groans. The whole tree shivers like a dowager with a secret. Victorians believed sleeping under willows invited paralysis. Their version of don't sit too close to the TV. You let go bark imprints temporary hieroglyphics on your palms. Wind combs through the leaves, 1,000 librarian fingers shushing at once. The sound drags up half-remembered lullabies, ones your nanny sang while sharpening her paring knife. 3 wars started over timber rights to weeping willows. Okay, maybe 2.5. Crouch-spotted mushrooms dot the roots like buttons on nature's cardigan. Each caps a different shade of oops don't eat that. Medieval witches allegedly danced here, tripping on ergot-infected rye instead of Spotify playlists. You sketch a protective circle with a stick instant folktale participation trophy. The trunk's hollow gapes, mouth mid-yawn, peer inside. Cobwebs glisten with overdue apologies. Someone stuffed a pewter flask there, embossed with a phoenix that's seen better centuries. Colonial brewers fermented ale in willow barrels, flavored with resignation and river water. Leave it be, ghosts get thirsty too. Your shadow merges with the trees, stretching toward the duck pond's murk. Ripples distort the reflection. A Picasso willow, nursing an existential crisis. That one Japanese legend claims Willow's house spurned lovers' souls, probably why the branches weep. A caterpillar inches up your sleeve, consultant here to discuss your life choices. Its fur coat puts your hoodie to shame. Savile row levels of thread count. Ancient cartographers drew willows at map edges, warning here be melodrama and damp socks. Frogs croak from the reeds. Amphibians slam poetry, night in full swing. The loudest ones definitely mocking your posture. In 1893, a Parisian chef served willow bud pâté. Reviews used words like regrettable and moist. Rain starts gentle as a parent's resignation. Drops patter the leaves, Morse code for go inside. You sentimental tourist. You stay, hair plastered, fabric clinging like a mortified second skin. Tudor herbalists prescribed willowroot tea for heartache. Understandable post-rainstorm. Lightning flickers. The tree transforms into a Gothic candelabra for 3 seconds. Count the branches. Each flash subtracts 1 in nature's sleight of hand. Dutch storm predictors hung willow wands from barn doors. If they spun clockwise, bad vibes incoming. Yours just drips, meteorological shrug. Thunder rolls, the grove's stomach growling for atmospheric drama. You press your ear to the trunk, heartbeat or groundwater. Both, probably. Archaeologists found willow pollen in Urtzi. The Iceman's gear, dude had allergies and a plan. A root snakes around your ankle, just a vine playing games. Yank free, it retracts, the whole tree huffs like a censored opera singer. Renaissance poets compared willow roots to tangled lies, unearthed only in hindsight's harsh sun. The last leaf clings, Jenga champion of its generation. Blink, it's gone, a green snowflake dissolving into the dark. You check your pocket, still no profound realizations, just lint and a parking ticket. Breeze dies, the willows freeze, become a museum exhibit titled Melancholy in 3 acts. Admission is 1 serotonin molecule. You left yours by the shears 3 sections back. Moonlight spotlights a single branch, nature's runway model, serving willow realness. Strike a pose, challenge it, your shadow acquiesces with tragic jegging's energy. Georgian nobles wore willow twigs as hatbands, fashion's way of saying I've read Keats once. When the church bell tolls 10, the grove exhales, breath smelling of wet dog and existential clarity. You lean back, roots reshape to fit your spine's particular brand of disappointment. History's soft here, like the difference between fact and whatever this is. Midnight's velvet glove smudges the edges. A fish leaps, ripples rewrite the duckweed's manifesto. You pocket a twig, free toothpick for banquets you'll never attend. Willow charcoal once fueled forges, burned quick, but left a sweet stench. The path home glistens, snail trails spelling out you tried. You follow each step, erasing the cursive, until dawn takes the podium. Nobody catches the leaf. Some elegies write themselves. The dusk air hums, a single cricket's chirp, perforating the silence like a needle through velvet. You freeze, ear tilted, as a second voice joins. Then, a dozen, a symphony of wing rubs tuning up. 17th century Chinese emperors kept them as pets, jeweled cages hung in summer palaces to outsing the court's flatterers. Their song swells now irregular as popcorn kernels bursting in slow motion. Kneel, grass pricks your shins, earth still warm from its daytime toast. One bold soloist perches on your shoelace, antennae twitching like a conductor's baton gone feral. Victorians believed crickets in the home foretold prosperity, though probably not the ones chewing their woolens. Blow gently, it vaults into the dark. A F-U-R-R-Y, Chinese letter, athlete scoring. 0 for grace. The chorus layers itself, staccato rhythms overlapping into a lullaby's chaotic cousin. Historians still argue whether samurai wives really sewed cricket cages into their husbands' armor, sentimental rumor, or feudal Bluetooth. You count beats per minute, lose track after 43, the math dissolving into cricket jazz. Moonlight glosses the meadow, each blade of grass becomes a violin's string. A bulbous shadow hops past, warty maestro with delusions of grandeur. Medieval plague doctors prescribed powdered cricket for melancholic vapors. Results allegedly involving hallucinations and regrettable tavern decisions. Your laugh startles a dozen musicians. Sudden silence hangs like a missed high note. They restart, tentative at first, then defiant. The tempo matches your pulse now, or is it the other way? Cold War scientists studied cricket chirps to calculate battlefield temperatures, nature's mercury-free thermometer. You unlace your shoes, let dew squish between toes, conducting the madness barefoot. A rogue firefly blinks through the swarm rave crasher, dressed in neon yellow. Watch it hover near a particularly shrill specimen. Insect karaoke duel underway. Renaissance alchemists claimed cricket blood could forge unbreakable locks. Turns out iron works better. The firefly pulls a U-turn, wisdom over bravado, leaving the field to the professionals. Wind riffles the grass, sound waves bending like a theremin's wail. Crouch lower, the world reduces to leg rubs, and your own rabbit-quick breath. One brave nymph climbs your thumb, its chirp a tinny kazoo against the baseline. 1800s mining towns staged cricket fights, wagering pension funds on bugs smeared with chili powder. Gently relocate the contender. Let it battle someone who'll care. The rhythm fractures, a missed beat then realigns. Your shoulders drop half an inch, didn't know they'd been tense. Tamil Nadu farmers still decode monsoon patterns through cricket pitches. Agribusiness meets Stravinsky. A moth kamikazes into your cheek, nature's reminder to stop romanticizing everything. Clouds smudge the moon. The meadow dims to a 1940s radio play. Close your eyes. The chirps map themselves across your eyelids, constellations of sound. A drip slides down your neck, leftover storm or pine sap's sticky reprimand. Edwardian psychics used cricket energy to contact dead authors. Tennyson's ghost supposedly demanded a royalties review. Palms press into damp soil, gravity shifts. Or maybe you're just tired. The crickets crest into a final crescendo, wings rubbed raw, then stop. Sudden silence feels louder the meadow, holding its breath. You stand vertebrae popping a Morse code critique of modern posture. 16 minutes dissolved, could have sworn it was hours or moments. They start again, softer now, a reprise for the encore resistant. Your shadow stretches toward the manor, a black tether even darkness can't sever. Walk slow. Let each step harmonize with the fading chorus. Tokyo's last cricket salesman closed shop in '92, replaced by ringtone downloads and existential dread. One persistent soloist follows, a hop ahead of your left heel, playing a dirge for sidewalks. Historians rarely mention how many imperial crickets died mid-concert, too busy engraving tributes to the winners. Step onto the gravel path. Its crunch drowns the last notes, nature's ride symbol. The manor's windows glow dull gold, eyes judging your insect allegiances. Glance back, the meadows, a black ocean, now waves of grass stilled. Pocket the pebble you've been rolling between fingers, souvenir for a night made of vibrations. Air smells of rain's leftover, and something nostalgic, library books, or grandmother's linen closet. Scientists still can't replicate cricket song synthetically, missing the secret ingredient. You hum a facsimile, flat notes dissolving before they reach the willows. Church bells shatter the moment, a drunk octopus, banging cymbals. The crickets pause, harvesting the echo, then play through the clangor. You count 12 strikes, each one cheaper than the last. Then the dark swallows them whole. Damp seeps through your jeans, badge of honor for overstaying dusk's welcome. Peel a leaf off your calf. Its veins mirror the meadow's sound map. Turn toward the kitchen's yellow light. Those crickets will outlive you, outlive the manor, outlive the petty human itch to document. Your key scratches the lock, a discordant seventh chord. Behind you, the chorus continues, no audience required. Sleep creeps up like a spy, soft-footed and smug with secrets. The bench greets you like an old friend who's forgotten your name, warm but vaguely confused. Slats still radiate a memory of noon, stubborn heat stored in their graying wood. Press your palm flat, feel warmth bleed into your skin, a slow transfusion from day to night. 19th century park designs always placed benches facing west, maximizing sunset vistas for brooding poets and frustrated novelists. Sit, the wood creaks a protest you ignore. Your jeans drink residual heat, fabric turning into a lukewarm teabag. Medieval herbalists swore benches soaked in chamomile could cure heartbreak, though results were reportedly patchy at best. A splinter catches your sleeve, nature's passive-aggressive reminder to mind the furniture. Twilight gnaws at the warmth, bite by tiny bite. Run your thumb over the armrest. Carved initials hide under lichen's green veil. LP plus EB, 1923, lovers or enemies. Historians still argue whether Gertrude Jekyll hid time capsules under her garden benches. The woman adored secrets like cats adore empty boxes. Shadows pool around your shoes, ink spilled across the lawn. The bench's thermal generosity dwindles, now just a faint heartbeat under your thighs. Lean back iron scrollwork digs into your spine, a decorator's idea of lumbar support. Edwardian butlers allegedly polished these things with beer. The yeast supposedly nourished the grain. Your breath ghosts upward, a pale flag of surrender. A spider repels from the overhead branch, abseiling into personal space. Blow gently, it pendulum swings away, eight-legged daredevil, auditioning for a circus you're not running. Cold seeps through denim, a sly invasion, forcing you to shift weight. Nails along the backrest flutter, loose in the breeze. A xylophone playable only by the wind. Close your eyes, sun-warmed memories surface. Childhood picnics, grape juice spills, library books splayed open like shotgunned birds. Renaissance, plague masks were stuffed with bench straw and herbs. Early air filtering gone macabre. Stand, peel your thighs off the slats, fabric making a velcro-ish re-yip. The bench exhales, relieved its duty done. Twilight has stolen the last degrees, would now as cool as a coroner's smile. Walk 10 paces, glance back. It's just a bench again. Moonlight glazes the armrest. LP plus EB glow faintly. You pocket a fallen oak leaf, token from a one-sided conversation. Somewhere a train whistles sound stretched thin. The bench doesn't even blink. Moonlight fractures across the manor's roof, slate tiles slicing the silver disc into geometric shards. Lean closer. Each shard trembles like mercury, spilled on a lab table. 17th century thatchers used to stuff owl feathers into roofs, believed to ward off lightning strikes and tax collectors. Your shadow stretches up the eastern wall, a featureless tenant paying rent in silhouette. One tile glows brighter than the rest, warped by centuries of frost heave. Touch it. The surface hums, vibrations skittering up your arm. Tudor architects angled gables to drench rooms in moonlight, cheaper than candles. But the owner's third wife hated the glare. Historians still argue whether the jagged roofline mimics the family's coat of arms, or the architect just had a grudge. Silver rivulets pool where tiles dip, liquid geometry seeping into gutters. A droplet hangs, suspended, then plummets 3 stories to the gravel below. Bavarian folklore claims counting these moon puddles before they fall grants 9 days of luck, though locals debated whether weekends counted. Your thumbnail catches the droplet's descent. It shatters soundlessly, a miniature supernova in the dirt. The weather vane creaks, its rusted rooster pointing southwest. Paint flakes spiral down, a slow-motion snow globe shaken by ghosts. You half expect it to crow, a metal throat choking on century-old rust. 18th century burglars allegedly used weather vanes to decode manor layouts. Left fasten, beak meant jewels in the east wing. Clouds smear the moon, the roof dims to a charcoal sketch. Blink, and the tiles flicker, an old film reel catching fire. Architects once added moon doors to attics, tiny openings for lunar rays to bless stored grain. None here, just a solitary dormer window, gaping like a dislocated jaw. Breathe in the air tastes of cold iron and moss. Your exhale mists the nearest tile. Frost blooms instantaneously, a lace collar on the night. Victorian gardeners timed pruning by moon phases, waxing for growth, waning for pest control. You snap an icicle off the gutter. It melts faster than regret, leaving a wet comma in your palm. The clouds part, moonlight floods back with a vengeance. Chimneys cast triple shadows, forked tongues licking the lawn. Modern lasers proved the central chimney leans 2 degrees off true north. But the why fuels pub arguments every October. Turn away, your pupils scream, adjusting to sudden gold as a study lamp ignites upstairs. Shingles crunch underfoot, grit stuck in their grooves since the blitz. Squint, one tile bears a child's chalk drawing, stick figures holding crescent-shaped balloons. You peel back lichen, the chalk brightens, a 5-second resurrection before fading again. Dutch restorers once secretly replaced a manor's entire roof between dusk and dawn. Neighbors swore it was witchcraft. The moon climbs higher, its puzzle piece reflections dissolving into flat light. Step back, the gables blur a charcoal smudge on indigo. Your neck prickles, that childhood sense of being watched by windows. Touch the wall, stone drinks your warmth, a one-sided trade. Wind rifles through the gutters, a comb through the manor's thinning hair. A tile slips, slides, catches on a nail halfway down. It swings, metronome for a song only termites can hear. Tomorrow, a groundskeeper will shrug, say roofs shed tiles like dogs shed fur. But tonight, it's your private countdown. The shattered tile pulls your gaze downward to where water cascades over a moss-bearded fountain. Centuries of runoff stained its basin streaks like coffee rings on marble skin. Renaissance engineers copied Roman aqueduct math for these jets, though they kept using lead pipes, because apparently brain fog was a period aesthetic. Your fingertip skims the water's skin. It flinches, ripples, erasing the reflection of your raised eyebrow. Moss clings to carved dolphins, their stone mouths frozen mid-leap. One sported a gold leaf crown once. Scraps glint like pirate teeth in the moonlight. Tudor aristocrats believed fountains purified gold coins and regularly tossed entire purses into them, which explains the water-stained ledgers. Historians still argue whether these spray patterns mimic forgotten hymns or just the architect's hangover tremors. A leaf spirals into the basin, riding the lazy whirlpool. Notice how it circles counterclockwise, same as hurricane winds in the southern hemisphere. 18th century conspiracists claimed this proved fountains were portals to the Antipodes. You'd float to Australia if you dove deep enough. Uncurl your toes over the rim, water numbs them, but your socks stay dry. The central statue, a nymph missing her nose, leaks a green-tinged dribble from her jug. Lichen creeps up her thigh, a botanical stocking. Restoration teams found 13th century love notes wedged in her base, one signed with a barmaid's lipstick kiss. Your breath mists her marble neck for a heartbeat. She seems to shiver. Plink, plink, plink. 3 drops hit the basin rhythm, just shy of a waltz. Venetian glassmakers once tuned fountain noises by tweaking spout angles, haunted by memories of wind chimes. Listen closer, the splashes almost shape a word. Your name, a warning. The water isn't saying, or it's saying glub glub, translation's a gamble. Sunlight still clings to the highest, jet a liquid icicle-defying dusk. At Versailles, they churned saffron into fountains to impress guests, dyeing entire togas during dry spells. You cup a handful. It spills through your fingers. No golden stain, just clammy regret. The nymph's missing nose suddenly makes sense. Mushrooms crowd the fountain's base, pale caps glowing like tiny UFOs. Press 1, it deflates with a sulky puff reeking of wet newspaper. 17-year cicadas, once hatched here. Locals swore their shells formed tiny armor for fountain sprites. Your shadow stretches across the water, blurring with the nymphs, a double exposure. Wind shoves the water sideways, spray pricks your ankles. A frog plops into the basin, kicks off an origami lily pad. Medieval healers prescribed fountain frog slime for baldness. Results reportedly worse than the cure. The frog glares, you glare back. A silent agreement to never mention this. Moonlight bleeds across the scene, edges blurring like wet charcoal. Spanish duelists once measured paces from fountain edges, 19 steps being the gentleman's choice. Count them now. If you reach 20, does the statue wink? You pivot, gravel shifts. The nymph stays stoic, her secrets chlorinated and stale. Dragonflies dart needles, stitching twilight to water. Their wings hum a B-flat, same pitch as Vienna's underground water pumps. Lean in the fountain's breath smells of pennies and forgotten birthdays. One dragonfly lands on your wrist, its body a bioluminescent hyphen, then dissolves into the dark. The final jet sputters, a death rattle. Water retreats into the drain, gurgling like a contented stomach. Bonaparte's troops allegedly drank this fountain dry, then hallucinated mermaids demanding wine reparations. You trace the drain's iron grate. It's warm, as if the earth below still blushes. Silence seeps in the kind that thickens eardrums. Your reflection finally stills, a stranger mouthing words you'll remember tomorrow in the shower. Turn away, the fountain exhales, a wet whisper clinging to your spine. Twilight bleeds the roses of their color, crimson, dimming to dried blood brown. You crouch as petals curl inward, tight-lipped fists guarding pollen hearts. Victorian lovers timed bouquets to arrive at dusk, when emotions supposedly seeped into petal veins. A thorn snags your sleeve, stay still, its grip softens as shadows deepen. Historians still argue whether the blood roses here were declarations or demands carved into horticulture. Night oils the air, scent so thick it coats your tongue. Breathe through your nose, incense of dying sweetness, like sugar burning in a cathedral. Napoleon's first wife Josephine grew 250 rose varieties, but allegedly couldn't stand their perfume. Your shoelace unties itself, a snake shedding its skin in the half-light. Thorns blur into braille, touch them wrong, they'll rewrite your fingerprints. A beetle trundles across a petal, its shell polished obsidian. 18th century gardeners mashed rose hips into paste, stuffed them into rented shoes for cushioning. Imagine blisters padded with vitamin C, because nothing says repair like floral insoles. The path winds tighter, hedges hunching close like nosy ants. One bloom glows paler than the rest, albino defiance in the gloom. Tudor nobles planted white roses to mark buried silver, though most just found angry badgers. Lean closer, the flower's stem shivers, your shadows too much company. Wind combs the garden, petals shred into confetti for ghosts. Catch one on your palm, it dissolves into a wet comma. A 1920s scandal claimed rosewater could erase wrinkles if applied by moonlight during a leap year. Rub the velvety wreckage. Your skin now smells like a tomb's valentine. Moonlight unbuttons the sky. Stars prick through moth-eaten black velvet. The roses exhale their breath colder than the air deserves. Medieval hedgers grafted roses onto hawthorn roots to repel witches, though it mainly repelled sane employment. Your knees ache time to rise, thorns release you without applause. Last bees drone home, fuzzy cargo holds empty. A petal clings to your heel, red flag of surrender. 17th century priests banned midnight rose pruning, believing dawn's light would shame the naked stems. Kick free, the petal spirals into darkness, no verdict on your guilt. The hedge gap ahead narrows, shoulders in, breath held, ribs scrape limestone. Exit won't come easy, nature prefers its visitors slightly shredded. A moth flits past, wing dust sprinkling your cheek like expired glitter. Renaissance portraitists used rose madder pigment, which smelled like rotting plums during rain. Swipe your face, the sparkle clings, stubborn as regret. Dew rises, a slow siege against your socks. Each step squelches a symphony for wet wool and poor choices. A Victorian botanist swore black roses sang. When uprooted, his journal entry ends mid-sen your fingers brush a bud. It recoils, a closed eyelid, avoiding its alarm clock. Lanterns flicker on the manor's porch, amber eyes judging your retreat. The garden tightens around you, a corset of scent and spines. Historians still argue whether rose labyrinths were spiritual journeys or just rich people's parking lots for regrets. You turn, thorns snag your shirt's hem, the roses want the last word. Moonlight puddles in your footsteps, silver trails leading nowhere useful. A breeze riffles the hedge, whispering a punchline you'll never quite hear. Your shadow stretches thinner now, stitched to the earth by 1,000 invisible barbs. The oak's shadow parts, a velvet wing slices the air above your head. You freeze, talons graze your hair, a punctuation mark without a sentence. The owl perches, a twist of bark and feathers pretending to be branch. Its call drips through leaves, a spoon tapping an empty glass. Ancient Greeks minted owls on coins, tiny metal guardians against bad luck in trade. This one's bigger silent, except for that single, hollow note. You count breaths between calls, 17 seconds, the gap widening each time. Medieval midwives stuffed pillows with owl feathers, believing their silence could mute a newborn's first cry. Rotate your heel, slow pebbles grind underfoot like unspoken apologies. The owl swivels its head, liquid mechanics, betraying no inner monologue. Historians still argue whether barn owls were church mascots or just pest control with better PR. Moonlight polishes its talons, each a sickle forged from stolen darkness. Wind rifles the oak's crown, acorns patter down like clumsy Morse code. The owl blinks, golden shutters snapping over black pool eyes. 16th century sailors thought owl beaks could forecast storms. They'd toss them like dice on ship decks. You pocket a fallen acorn. Its cap fits your thumbnail like a tiny helmet. The call comes again, closer now, a vibration behind your ribs. Scientists traced owl silence to serrated flight feathers evolution's answer to muted stalking. You mimic the sound, hollowing your cheeks, but your breath betrays you. It sounds like a kazoo at a vigil. Leaves rustle, a mouse's final scuttle etched into the dirt. The owl detaches from the branch, gravity hesitates, then remembers its job. Wings spread, shadow eclipse, a detective's coat flaring mid-chase. Owls swallow prey whole, their gizzards press bones into pellets like nature's 3D puzzles. Your neck prickles, the tree's bark now pocked with moonlight. A feather drifts down, quill still warm from the bird's undercoat. Press it between your palms. It smells of libraries and mouse blood. Victorians believed owl feathers in hats cured headaches. Or maybe they just liked murder accessories. Silence pools where the owl flew, a negative space shaped like wings. You tilt your head, testing that unnatural, jointless pivot. Your vertebrae protest. Gothic architects carved owls into cathedral gutters, rainwater spilling from their beaks during storms. The effect was either holy or haunted, depended on who got pooped on. Footsteps crunch gravel distant, a gardener's boots, or time's blunt metronome. The oak's roots hum, sap slowing to a twilight crawl. You press your ear to the trunk, heartbeats echo up from the soil, or maybe it's just your pulse lost and mapping itself home. Stars copy the owl's blinking pattern dots, connecting nothing to nowhere. Your breath fogs, a ghost rehearsing its only line. The acorn warms in your palm, embryonic tree curled tight as a secret. Walk away, the owl's call follows, a lazy boomerang with no intention of returning. Thunder groans, the sky's floorboards straining under some celestial relocation project. You count the seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, but lightning's too coy to strike a pose. Air clings to your skin now, a damp shroud that used to be atmosphere. 18th century Londoners, dubbed 1703's Tempest, the great storm. Winds peeled lead from church roofs like orange rinds. Tonight's breeze seems amateur by comparison, all bluster and no follow-through. Your shirt sticks, cotton transformed into a poorly designed sponge. A rumble cascades, not overhead, but eastward, where the hills hump like sleeping dragons. Farmers once buried iron tools at property lines, believing metal confessions could ground lightning's rage. Your car keys jingle in your pocket, modern-day talismans against forces they'll never understand. Leaves flip their pale, undersides up, nature's white flags trembling in unison. Ozone sharpens the air, a burnt matchstick tang mixed with petrichor's sneak preview. Historians still argue whether Viking thunder priests could actually divert storms, or just charged extra for sunny weddings. Clouds bruise from gray to green, the color of old aquarium glass. A drop hits your wrist, salty, warm, wholly insufficient for the sky's drama. 16th century apothecaries sold bottled stormwater as skyrivers, guaranteed to cure melancholy or your coin back. Spoiler, it cured nothing but hydration. The horizon flickers, electric veins lighting a map only storms comprehend. You spot the manors, weather vanes spinning, a brass rooster having an existential crisis. 19th century sailors swore lightning, avoided ships carrying rabbits, though nobody asked the rabbits their opinion. Wind sprints through your hair, an overeager stylist with cold fingers. Grass blades quiver, each a tiny divining rod tasting promise of chaos. That one rebellious strand you've smoothed 9 times, defiant as ever. Thunder claps, close enough to taste now, copper dancing on your tongue. Your ears pop, pressure shifting like the planet just sighed through its teeth. Renaissance docs blamed migraines on thunderheads in the blood. Their leeches worked just as well as modern cures. Lightning forks, 3 jagged cracks, breaking the sky's plaster ceiling. The manor's windows flash, briefly awake, then resume their glazed indifference. You recall Florida's lightning capital title, though this English meadow's making a strong play tonight. Rain arrives, not in drops, in sheets drunk on their own audacity. Water sluices down your neck, an impromptu baptism by a giggling diocese. Ground surrenders, mud rising to greet your souls like overeager clay. Garden statues glisten, marble saints weeping mascara streaks of moss and mildew. Your clothes gain 3 pounds, fabric clinging with the desperation of a bad first date. Historians still whisper about thunder houses, lead-lined rooms where Georgian nobles rode out storms playing backgammon. Lightning strikes the distant oak, charring bark into a charcoal exclamation point. The air sizzles, burnt sugar, and static clinging to your molars. 19th century papers claimed lightning could sterilize soil. Turns out it just fries nitrogen into plant food. Hail arrives, frozen ball bearings pummeling rhododendron leaves into botanical confetti. You shield your eyes, icicles kamikaze diving into puddles with faint plinks. Tudor moms told kids hail was angel popcorn, conveniently ignoring heaven's questionable seasoning choices. The storm pivots, rain slants sideways, despite umbrellas, invented 3 centuries too late. You're drenched, a bipedal water feature with questionable drainage. Lightning mirrors your silhouette against the manor, a shadow puppet stuck on loop. Thunder retreats, grumbling about parking tickets as it heads toward Dover. Rain softens, droplets now gossiping instead of shouting. You wring out your sleeve, a pathetic fountain into the drowned grass. Sunlight claws through clouds. Tourist trap gold promising rainbows it won't deliver. Steam rises from your shoulders, a personal fog bank smelling of wet wool and poor decisions. The storm's finale, a single fat drop down your collar cold as a widow's ring. Mud sucks at your boots, each step a divorce from the storm's slick aftermath. The hedges huddle closer here, sentries guarding rows of markers, swallowed by time. You crouch, fingers tracing letters worn smooth as sea glass. Elia's H, the rest eaten by lichen's slow feast. Victorian widows wore jet beads from Whitby cliffs, polished grief hanging cold against collarbones. This grave offers moss instead, velvet green, and stubborn as unanswered questions. Your nail catches a date 1840-something, the last digit drowned in mud. 16th century mourners tucked grave candy in coffins, rock-hard sugar skulls to sweeten eternity's journey. Here only a sunken jar lid survives, rusted into a copper iris. You straighten knees, protesting, as drizzle repaints the scene in watercolor grays. A slanting slab leans like a drunkard's toast. Here lies Margaret, beloved mother of 7. The earth beneath it yawns, roots cradling a ceramic shard from a child's cup. Historians still argue whether Georgian white mourning veils hid tears or just kept flies off the bereaved. Wind riffles through yew branches, a whisper of remember us, remember us, remember. You touch the smallest marker, a tooth-sized stone simply marked FN. Fungi bloom along its edge, tiny umbrellas for ghostly picnic goers. 19th century spiritualists claimed gravestone rubbings could channel messages from the departed. Your sleeve skims moss, cold seeping through fabric, but no spectral postcards arrive. Only the hiss of rain sliding off ivy leaves. One slab's inscription floats upside down, betrayed by subsiding soil. Thomas Green, master of hounds, now stares at worms through inverted text. You trace the backward dates. 18 becomes 81, mortality's palindrome etched in York stone. Medieval burial crews hid witch marks on tomb undersides, hexvilles to trap restless souls. No such symbols here, just quartz veins glinting like frozen lightning in granite. Your shadow stretches across the plot, a temporary resident staining the ground. The hedge parts, revealing a slate tablet swallowed by brambles. Captain Wallace Atherton, lost at sea, age 32. Salt air never reached this inland grave, yet barnacles crust the epitaph's edges. Coincidence? The parish ledger from 1789 blames marine fungi. Sure, 3 markers form a triangle, names eroded into Rorschach blots. You squint, is that an M? A V? The drizzle laughs, smudging guesses into slate. Nearby, a marble lamb's face melts into a mushroom smirk. Your heel dislodges a clay pipe stem, soot still clinging to the mouthpiece. 18th century gravediggers smoked to mask decay's perfume. This one must have hurried. The bowl's fractured, a tiny tim of tobacco artifacts. Light bleeds through clouds, gold fingernails scraping moss from rest in peace. You stand, spine cracking a protest, as mist twists into shapes above the stones. For a heartbeat, it almost forms hands, almost waves, almost. The chimney pierces the indigo, a gray ribbon fraying at the edges. You count the twists, 7 loops before the wind combs it straight. 18th century, flues coiled like snail shells to trap sparks. Wise after half of London, burned on PUDD, ING, Chinese letter. This one exhales proper, no rebellion in its smoke. Wood smoke wraps your shoulders, an invisible shawl smelling of apple logs and regret. Tudor bakers used fruitwood ash to bleach flour extra crunch in their morning biscuits. Here the embers glow like a cat's pupils, always watching, never certain. 3 bricks bulge near the chimney's base, a mason's hiccup from 1703. Local legends claim the bulge hides a stonemason's love letters sealed in lead. You squint grout lines, stay stubbornly mute. Your breath fogs the study window, a temporary frost etching. Inside, the hearth crackles beneath a mantle carved with odd symbols. Historians still argue whether they're Saxon curses or just bored apprentices doodling wolves. The armchair by the fire sits, dented, cushions holding the ghost of a draftsman's spine. Smoke thickens, charcoal fingers grasping at Venus, now brightening in the east. Colonial innkeepers hung herbs in chimneys to flavor meat, rosemary for remembrance, sage for silence. This hearth offers only ghosts of sap and split oak. A spark escapes, a fugitive winking out midair. 17th century sailors read smoke direction like scripture. Westward curls meant storms brewing. You track this one's ascent, it dies before confessing any forecast. The jackdaw on the ridge tile cocks its head, storing your silhouette in its thief's memory. Georgian servants believed birds nested in chimneys to steal household secrets. You stare back, it flies off empty clod. Moss creeps up the north side, velvet upholstery for lichen's slow climb. Medieval thatchers mixed moss and dung for insulation. Ode to peasant homestead. You peel a strand, it clings like a jealous lover. Your shadow mimes climbing the bricks, a pointless pantomime against fading light. Tudor chimney boys died wedged in flues, their bones fossilized in soot. You step back, ash powders your sleeve like gray pollen. Moonlight inks the smoke blue where it parts. Regency romantics wrote sonnets to phantom hearths, unrequited verses for fires that burned without consuming. Tonight's embers drowse, content to smolder in half-dreams. Cobwebs vein the chimney stack, silk, highways for spiders fleeing the weather vane's creek. Edwardian engineers debated adding wire caps to deter nests. Too late for THIS, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. You pluck a strand, it dissolves like a bad promise. Wind sculpts the smoke into fleeting forms, a horse's skull, a ship's prow, your first grade teacher. 19th century spiritualists would have auctioned that vision for 6pence a peek. You blink, it unravels into nothing worth selling. The last log collapses, a muffled groan, then red petals fanning across ash. Archaeologists found Viking hearths lined with crushed shell, heat retention trick, lost with pillaged scrolls. You crouch, knees protesting, to watch the glow fade from coral to corpse gray. Cold seeps into your seams now that the smoke thins. Victorian scullery, maids warmed irons in hearths, pressed their chapped hands between shifts. You mimic them, palms hovered over dying coals, but the heat's gone shy. Stars multiply as the chimney's breath dwindles, embers exhaling their final atoms of light. You walk backward, keeping the smoke in view until it merges with the dark. The night tastes of burnt sugar and unanswered questions. The iron gate's chill lingers in your palm as dusk deepens, its latch left undecided between latch and release. You turn toward the lawn, watch shadows pool beneath hawthorn hedges. 17th century sundials used bryony vines as gnomon markers, their serpentine stems tracing time's curve. Here, the fence posts become hourglass figures, stretching skinny as saplings, then compressing into stumps as clouds drag the moon. Your shadow detaches, slithers ahead to blend with the others. Medieval scholars believed twilight shadows held fragments of your soul lost when you stopped watching. You pause, squint, but yours maintains perfect custody. Gravel crunches underfoot, a sound like bread crusts ground to dust. The Manor's eastern fence leans, each post a charcoal stroke smudged by mist. Regency astronomers timed cloud movements using fence patterns, calculating celestial speeds with string and sextant. You count 5 posts elongating, 3 contracting, as the sky's clock face falters. A bat's shadow flickers across the path, too fleeting to flip the hourglass. Tudor playwrights called dusk thieves, lantern perfect for clandestine herb gathering or illicit kisses. You kick a pebble, watch it vanish into a pool of dark. Wind stirs the rye grass, a sound like pages turning too fast. Historians still argue whether Renaissance sundial makers encoded secret messages in their shadow angles. You trace a post's silhouette. Its arc suggests nothing but the night's impatience. Moonlight bleeds through a cloud, transforming the lawn into a chessboard of silver and pitch. 18th century landscapers buried iron rods to manipulate estate shadows, guiding visitors toward picturesque despair. Your foot hovers over a light square, then retreats, unwilling to play. The western hedge exhales a moth, its wings powdered with the same gray as the chimney's last smoke. Ancient Persians spun thread at twilight, believing shadows strengthened the weave against jinn. You pinch your sleeve, fabric ordinary, though the air tastes of loom dust. 3 quick blinks, and the fence row seems to leap backward. Victorian opticians sold chronolenses, claiming to slow perceived time, just brass frames with indigo glass. You rub your eyes, posts snap back into their indecisive dance. Your heel grinds into the gravel, an anchor against time's rubbery stride. Neolithic burial mounds aligned with solstice shadows, bone-filled chambers lit once a year. Tonight's elongating dark feels less sacred, more like a child tugging your sleeve. Clouds clot above, a thrombus in the sky's vein. 17th century healers applied shadow poultices to fevered brows, moss pressed in moonlight, cloth torn at both ends. You press a palm to your forehead cool, despite the memory of embers. The weather vane creaks, its arrow spinning lazy circles like a compass, doped on opium. Historians still argue whether medieval monks invented mechanical clocks to outpace their own dying breaths. You count 13 spins before it stalls, pointing nowhere or everywhere. A droplet hits your neck, rain or condensed twilight, unclear. Baroque painters boiled walnuts to make shadow ink, sepia ghosts staining their initials into canvas corners. You tilt your face upward, catch nothing but the weight of descending stars. Wind flattens the grass, 1,000 green hands applauding the void. 19th century psychics held seances at shadow convergence points, charging 6 shillings to chat with Petrarch. You crouch, fingers brushing where 4 darknesses intersect, and hear only ants marching. The gate creaks behind you, a throat cleared in an empty room. Mongol scouts timed invasions by how long horsemen's shadows took to drown in dust clouds. Yours stretches toward the manor now, a black tongue lapping at the porch steps. Lightning flickers once, tattooing the scene onto your retinas. For 3 heartbeats, the lawn becomes a negative, dark posts glowing white, grass black as printer's ink. Roman generals considered such flashes divine punctuation, omens demanding instant ellipses. You stand frozen, waiting for the sky's verdict. Thunder follows, a bass note strumming your ribs. Edwardian scientists argued night storms reset human circadian rhythms, nature's alarm clock for the chronically urbanized. You breathe in ozone, the scent of a world rebooting. Rain begins in earnest now, needles stitching the lawn to the sky. Tudor farmers took down rain gauges at dusk, afraid witches would piss in them. You open your mouth, catch a drop, and wonder about its pedigree. The last visible post shrinks to a thumb's width, a charcoal line on nature's ledger. Eclipse hunters in 1769 drank mercury to steady their shadow vision, a cure worse than blindness. You step into the downpour, letting liquid darkness blur the hourglass into mud. Rain slows, droplets clinging to your lashes like liquid crystal. Ahead, a flower uncurls its petals with the precision of a pocket watch's mechanism. Ivory folds glistening in residual moonlight. Victorian plant hunters nearly drove the moonflower to extinction. Aristocrats craved its one-night blooms for debutante party centerpieces. You kneel, knee sinking into mud that still remembers the storm's tantrum. The scent hits like a struck match, jasmine laced with burnt sugar. Aztec healers used night bloomers in dream rituals, smearing pollen on sleeping eyelids to catch wayward souls. You lean closer, your shadow drapes over the blossom like a mourning veil. Historians still argue whether these plants evolved white petals to attract moths or to shame the moon for its dullness. A petal brushes your wrist, cold as a surgical scalpel. 17th century apothecaries sold lunar elixirs brewed from similar blooms, guaranteed to cure melancholia or cause it, depending on the drinker's stars. You inhale, the sweetness clogs your throat, then dissolves into something metallic like licking a battery. Crickets hush, as if the flower's opening triggered a silent alarm. Dutch tulip speculators once traded moonflower bulbs as collateral until they realized the blooms refuse to open indoors. Your breath fogs the petal's surface. It recoils, then stills, testing your intentions. Somewhere a frog belly flops into a puddle, the sound of a wet mitten hitting tile. Medieval watchmen chewed nightshade petals to stay alert, unaware the practice dilated their pupils to soup spoon proportions. You mimic them, plucking a petal, but pause its edge glowing faintly as though dipped in radium. The stem quivers, not from wind, but some interior shiver. Edwardian mediums claimed night-blooming flowers were microphones for the dead, their scents encoding messages from the other side. You press the petal to your ear, hear only capillary whispers, sap moving like elevator music. Light bleeds back into the sky indigo, fading to the gray of a worn flannel shirt. Botanists once grafted moonflowers onto grapevines, hoping to create self-fermenting wine. The hybrid spat out fruit resembling pickled eyeballs, project abandoned by the asterisk. You let the petal fall, it spirals, landing in a footprint left hours or lifetimes ago. Ants swarm the discarded bloom, their antennae sketching feverish semaphore. Tudor gardeners buried nightshade under coffins, believing it would soak up corpse vapors and bloom black. This one stays obdurately pale, its glow outlasting the retreating stars. Your knees protest as you stand, a popcorn symphony of tendons and regret. Modern sleep clinics use synthesized moonflower scent in insomnia trials. Subjects report dreaming in monochrome. You take 3 steps back. The flower's perfume clings like a release capsule, each breath layering memory onto the present. Dew forms crawling up the stem as if gravity reversed. A Napoleonic soldier's journal describes finding a moonflower on St. Helena, its scent so seductive he neglected to finish poisoning his jailers. You blink, and the world tilts, petals now resembling hands, cupped around an invisible flame. The first bird shreds the silence, a jagged chirp like a cassette tape ripped apart. Horticulturists still can't explain why these flowers grow near battlefield remnants, their roots tangled with musket balls and molar fragments. You pocket a pebble instead, its surface still holding the storm's electric kiss. Light crests the hedges, blades of gold filleting the lawn. The flower's edges curl inward, its performance ending as programmed. Renaissance poets compared this retreat to lost virginity, a metaphor best left pressed between dusty folios. You walk away, each step compressing the grasses, complaints into the soil. One petal remains upright, trembling in the breeze's afterthought. It could be waving or shaking a fist, depending on your investment in metaphors. Your shadow merges with the ivy-clad wall, its leaves shivering like a cat's twitching flank. Fingers brush the foliage, expecting damp cellulose, but it's warm. Tudor builders planted these vines as insulation, their tangled mats trapping heat better than mortar. A shudder runs through the green mass, left to right, as if something just turned over in its sleep. You press closer, palms flat against leaves that feel suspiciously like flannel pajamas. 19th century spiritualists swore ivy revealed true love if you whispered a crush's name and the vine grew toward water. Skepticism itches your throat, but your lips part anyway, testing. The leaves twitch, though that might be the breeze practicing its ventriloquism. Moonlight filters through the canopy, etching your hand's silhouette onto the wall. Historians still argue whether medieval ivy carvings on churches warded off evil or just gave bored masons something to doodle. You trace a heart-shaped gap in the foliage, edges frayed by caterpillar teeth. Something pulses beneath, a rhythm older than the Manor's foundation stones. A leaf detaches, drifts down, lands crosswise on your shoe. Renaissance plague doctors stuffed their masks with ivy, believing its scent purified miasma. You crush the leaf. Sweetness gives way to bitterness, a green apology. Wind snakes through the vines. It sounds like pages turning in an empty library. 2 fireflies orbit your head, insistent as punctuation marks. Edwardian anarchists hid messages in ivy patterns, their couriers trained to read chlorophyll semaphore. You squint, arrange the blinking lights with the leaves, but the code spells only gibberish or your name backward. Rain resurfaces, light as a seamstress's pins. The ivy drinks hungrily, each droplet absorbed with audible relish. Archaeologists found ivy roots under Pompeii's baths, still alive when they excavated them in the 1980s. You wonder if volcanic ash tastes like this, charcoal and impatience, as you lick rain from your wrist. A spider descends, silk glinting like a spinal column, legs pedaling air. Victorians called them ivory riders, omens of clandestine affairs. It pauses, mandibles working, then ascends into the green static. Your neck prickles, aware of being mapped by overlapping compound eyes. Lightning bugs multiply, their Morse code growing frantic. 18th century burglars rubbed ivy sap on their hands, believing it made doorknobs slip free. You mimic them, squeezing a leaf until sap beads, but your grip stays stubbornly mortal. Thunder growls, so distant it might just be a trucker downshifting. The wall exhales, a breath of loam and forgotten Sundays. Cold War survival guides suggested eating ivy during sieges. The entry ends with results inconclusive. You pluck a berry, roll it between fingers, watch blue-black stain bloom. The taste might kill you or cure you, but the moment slips away unclaimed. Shingles creak overhead, a raccoon's moonlit tightrope act. Each ivy leaf now wears a quicksilver edge, dawn lapping at the horizon. Chrysanthemum farmers in Edo period, Japan trained vines into living ladders, their rungs precise as piano keys. You step back watching green fade from emerald to hospital wall mint. The pulse quickens, leaves fluttering like panicked doves. You press both hands flat, palms reading the wall's urgent braille. Historians still argue whether ivy kills its host trees or just chronicles their demise. A berry bursts underfoot, the pop of a cork pulled too fast. Dew ascends, climbing stems in defiance as crows begin their shift. The ivy yawns, stretching, casting a lattice of shadows that braille your shoes. You walk backward, retracing steps, until the wall blurs into a solid bruise of green. One tendril reaches after you, curled like a question mark or a noose. It trembles, then stills, leaving interpretation to the next fool who wanders by. The chains moan, rusty, hinges protesting your weight as the swing surrenders. You kick off too hard, the arc threatening to scrape paint from the ceiling beams. Victorian porch swings weren't for lounging, they were flexes. Proof you had enough land to waste space on swaying. Your heels dig ruts in the gravel-dusted floorboards, each forward push scattering aphids into the dusk. A splinter nags your palm, incensed you'd mistake this for anything but a retired ship's plank. Historians still argue whether New Orleans sailors invented porch swings by hanging hammocks under gallery roofs. The debate's buried under layers of creosote, and your indifference as you tilt your head back. Moonlight lacquers the chains, transforming their cramps into liquid silver ribbons. Someone's carved initials inside the left armrest, JD plus EF, flanked by a lopsided heart. You chip at the wood with your thumbnail, sending pale curls spiraling into the dark. 19th century couples bribed carpenters to hide their sweetheart graffiti under fresh stain, a timbered version of love letters. The swing hiccups mid-arc, a knot in the chain catching like a misplaced comma. You freeze, half expecting the whole contraption to collapse, but it creaks onward, unimpressed by dramatics. Rumor claims Teddy Roosevelt's daughter once rigged a swing to record conversations, wiring it with Edison's earliest microphones. Your knees pop, a less clandestine audio leak, as you resume rocking. Wind rifles through the swing's cushion, a relic of sunflower-patterned canvas, sun-faded to ghost yellow. Faded receipts line the stuffing grocery lists from 1992, whispering about milk and mutual funds. A ladybug navigates the fabric's canyons, its shell blushing under the porch, light's jaundiced glare. You blow gently, it unfurls wings, a stained glass helicopter fleeing your amusement. 3 fireflies orbit the chain's left side, drunken satellites trapped in a lazy loop. Swing mechanics once fueled a bizarre 1930s cult, their manifesto claiming rhythmic motion unlocked astral sugar. Their meetings ended when a senator's wife dislocated both shoulders trying to achieve terminal velocity. You coast slower, suddenly aware of your shoulders' mortal limitations. The rhythm syncs with your breathing. Inhale forward, exhale back, until your spine forgets its vertebrae. Lightning bugs stitch constellations between the balusters, their code, demanding you translate nonsense into meaning. You hum and commercial jingle for lawn chairs, Watch the bugs scatter, then regroup like offended critics. Dew seeps through the cushion, an insistent coolant against your thighs. Prohibition-era bootleggers stashed bottles in hollow swing seats, their clients rocked longer than necessary to appear deep in thought. You probe the cushion's seams, find only a petrified gumball, and let disappointment evaporate unspoken. A moth grazes your ear, wing beats softer than the swing's rusty exhales. Its antennae taste the air between you. A lunar rover, sampling alien terrain. You hold still, beneath the porch light's bug zapper crown, until it loses interest. Decades of wing smoke cling to the bulb, their final flights archived as astrophysics-grade dust. Your shadow stretches across the lawn, stomach rising, and falling like a cursive M. Historians still argue whether hypnotists borrowed pendulum techniques from porch swings or vice versa. Either way, you're too drowsy to care, as the chains croak a lullaby scored by entropy. The swing dreams of momentum, each arc a millimeter shorter than the last. Twilight's last affidavits dissolve as your heel dents fill with shadows. You picture JD and EF, their initials outliving whatever love or loan birthed them, and snap off a splinter for the road. The bucket sways, frayed rope groaning under neglect. Peer over the edge. Your reflection shatters into a dozen U's on black glass. Moss crusts the stones like mold on forgotten bread. Each crack a roadmap of dry seasons. Your palm throbs, the swings splinter a dim protest as gravel grinds beneath your soles. You approach the moss-crusted well. Its limestone blocks bulge like an overved baker. Another century's craftsmanship or arrogance. The crank handle wears a jaunty angle, one rusted bolt from retirement. Give it an experimental turn. The gears shriek, mocking your optimism. 19th century estate wells often hit Roman foundations, diggers tossing coins in for luck, like subway commuters feeding parking meters. Beneath that black mirror, if local legends hold, lie 2,000 years of wishes. Roman leather purses disintegrated, leaving silver denarii kissed by lips you'll never know. The bucket jerks, spilling moonlight down the shaft. You freeze, half expecting an answer from the dark. Victorians swore wells whispered their echoes carrying prayers to underground rivers. Your penny plinks against stone, halfway down, voting for mayor of nothing. The sound returns warped, like a voicemail played through a tin can network. Damp air slithers up your sleeves, carrying the tang of iron and resigned earth. Lean closer, your mosaic of faces ripples, eyelids smeared into Picasso proportions. One cheekbone morphs into your third-grade teacher's disapproving glare. Rorschach tests cost $200 an hour. This one's free. A spider rappels down the rope, freezes when it notices you noticing. Smart. 19th century miners used canaries. Now we've got 8-legged doom scouts. The bucket creaks this close. It smells of Splenda-sweetened sweat and rain-rotted hemp. Historians still argue whether medieval well witches poisoned rivals or just had terrible arsenic-based mascara. Your thumbnail picks at the crank's rust, flakes falling like carcinogenic snow. 17 turns to haul up emptiness. The rope's core, fibers glisten, freshly stressed, thinner than your last nerve. Local myths claim a governess drowned here in 1893. Her whalebone corset never surfaced. You check your phone reflexively, one bar, as if ghosts care about coverage. Wind funnels down the shaft, a harmonic moan that prickles your molars. That's the Wells parlor trick, playing the world's saddest didgeridoo. Blink, your fractured reflection briefly unites, then splinters again. You pocket a pebble, souvenir of anticlimax, its edge sharp enough to prove you felt something. 3 fireflies orbit the wellhead, upstaging the stars. Walk away backward. Folklore says it confuses water spirits. Your heel meets a root. The well laughs in drips. Your spine meets cool grass. The earth still humming that same low C. Above, stars bloom like ink through a pinholed lampshade. Ptolemy mapped 48 constellations, or so they taught you. But this sky laughs at tidy grids. The hedges know, their shadows braid across the lawn, copying stellar curves with chlorophyll precision. Trace Cassiopeia first, the queen's jagged crown reduced to 5 faint pricks. The Manor's rose garden mirrors it, spikes and curls frozen mid-reach. A bat zigzags through both maps, defying boundaries. 17th century astronomers once blamed such creatures for eating starlight. Hence the Dutch word vleermuis, meaning fluttering mouse. You blink, and the great bear becomes a thorn bush. ITS Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter configuration. Guided Chinese merchants, though tonight it's just 7 freckles on a tired face. Grass tickles your earlobe, insistent. Local legend claims, squatting here in 1783, a drunk vicar mapped Venus's transit using cider bubbles. One constellation defies replication. The swan's wingspan too grand for mortal shrubs. Its beak points to a star nursery, gas and dust swirling unseen. Modern apps would overlay facts, distance, magnitude, nuclear recipes. You prefer the lie of silence, the fiction of fireflies as cosmic debris. Historians still argue whether Babylonian star catalogs inspired Stonehenge, or if jet-lagged desperation makes us link random dots. Your finger connects Antares to a topiary's shaky spire. Close one eye, the hedge swallows the star hole. A shooting star streaks, its death throws outsourced to the thermosphere. Make a wish stupid, yet your teeth dig into pleas. The Abenaki tribes saw such streaks as celestial canoes ferrying ancestors, though never specified if they charged rush-hour fares. Breathe deep, air cool as museum glass. The Big Dipper's handle drips toward the horizon, leaking stardust onto oak branches. You count 93 visible points, 94 if you squint charitably. Victorian star parties served lobster salad, a fact both impressive and repellent. Your elbow sinks into dew, sleeve clinging like a jealous lover. Trace the hedge's version of Orion, a lopsided rectangle with rosemary clusters for shoulders. Scholars debate if the Greeks stole his belt from Mesopotamian goat herders. You're just mad his sword lost 3 gems to aphids. A satellite trespasses, blinking corporate Morse code. City dwellers miss this, their skies pre-chewed by light pollution. The hedges rustle approving, as if nature filed a noise complaint. Venus emerges a paparazzo, flashing the garden. Your pupils shrink betrayed. That's no star, just sunlight bouncing off a toxic hellscape of sulfuric acid. The Victorians wrote it love poems. Fools. Clouds arrive uninvited, cotton batting over a diamond display. The hedge animals gray out, their edges dissolving like sugar cubes. You've memorized their false constellations anyhow, the snail, the teapot, the half-eaten croissant. The moon shoulders past a chimney, its craters yawn wide. Luna's seas, basalt plains dry as the well below. 17th century mapmakers etched dragons there, charming liars. Your lids grow heavy, the stars smearing into a light bright Jesus. 3 fireflies rewrite Ursa Minor, a winkered asterism only drunkards trust. You hum a lullaby from a dead language, notes souring in transit. When sleep comes, it drags the stars down like a popped balloon arch. Your heel grinds gravel into the foundations, mortar a sound like molars, crunching sugar cubes. That cellar door shouldn't yawn like this. Its iron hinges warped by winters you weren't invited to witness. Dampness climbs your ankles. 19th century builders mixed horsehair into the lime plaster here, prevents cracking, also gives the walls a texture like mange. You crouch fingers hovering over the gap. Tudor cellars stored ice from frozen Thames tributaries. 16 tons were hauled by sledge each January. Touch the oak threshold, your nail snags a splinter older than the steam engine. Folklore claims these doorways swallowed maids who polished the hinges too vigorously. Their bones supposedly fertilize the rhododendrons. A draft escapes, carrying the tang of sour wine and something fungal. Historians still argue whether the grooves in these walls held wine racks or shackles. Your phone's flashlight feels cheap here, a blasphemy against the dark. The beam catches a cobweb's chandelier, each strand sagging with dust like overcooked linguine. 3 steps descend into blackness. The 4th is missing, a trick noted in an 1897 servant's diary auctioned last March. You lean just enough to spot the 5th step's iron rivets. They mimic the Big Dipper's formation if constellations were designed by a drunk blacksmith. The chill sharpens, a frozen Charlotte doll pressed to your neck. Local teens dare each other to lick the walls in December. Rumor says the saltpeter tastes like regret. You don't verify. That damp isn't moisture, it's absence eating the air. Something scrapes below, maybe a barrel shifting, or a root shouldering through stone. Archaeologists found cat skeletons under Hampshire manors, mummified guardians against spiritual rats. Your breath fogs, each exhale a ghost, practicing its vanishing act. A thud. Your shoulders hit the doorframe, instinct trumping curiosity. The flashlight dies, as expected. Twilight refuses to follow you here. That broken step gapes, a mouth missing its worst tooth. Retreat, please, but the hinges croak, a rusty aria. 17th century servants greased these with rendered goose fat. The recipe required precisely 17 cloves, one for each shilling in their monthly wage. You count your own pulse instead, 32 beats per stolen breath. Mildew wraps your tongue now, the taste of libraries that died unshelved. Historians still argue whether Lord Pembroke stored his mistress here, or just particularly judgmental Merlot. Your heel grinds deeper into gravel, anchoring against the door's whispered suck. 4. Fireflies bob past defectors from the garden's weakening luminescence. The dark below shifts, a seismic shrug. You imagine roots unknotting, stone dissolving into primordial silt. That's the cellar's final joke. It doesn't scare you. It just waits for you to admit you've been holding your breath since page 3. Step back. Let the night reclaim its maw. The damp clings, a chaperone steering you toward safer shadows. Your retreat from the cellar deposits you at the gazebo's splintered steps, warped wood groaning like a dowager's knees. Ivy chokes the lattice walls, each leaf glazed in moonlight, turned greasy by neglect. The melody drifts again, a music box wound too tight. You recognize the tune, all the pretty little horses, but the notes curdle halfway through. Victorian nursemaids sang this to colicky infants, though historians still argue whether the lyrics referenced actual horse thefts. Your hum syncs with the warble. It's like harmonizing with a scratched vinyl record. The gazebo floor lists left, one post sunk into what was once a duck pond. Local teens claim it's the perfect spot to whisper secrets. The rot swallows every word. A wind-up gramophone sits cracked in the corner, its brass horn sprouting bindweed. 1893 model Shelley's Music Emporium stamped on the base. Auction listings say these often exploded during ragtime records. You kneel, your shadow mutes the sound. Now it's just your pulse against the dirge. That sour note sharpens, a lemon wedge rubbed on a paper cut. 18th century mothers added verses to ward off night pilgrims' spirits who craved lullabies like drunkards crave gin. Your breath hitches. The air here tastes of powdered sugar and spoiled milk. A spider descends its thread, bisecting the melody into broken measures. 3 fireflies shudder in time with the refrain, their light dimming with each dip in tempo. You count their flickers like a cardiogram. Historians still debate whether music box manufacturers encoded wartime messages in gear teeth. The crank handles missing, stolen by a gardener's kid in 1972, according to parish gossip. Plink. A wire snaps inside the mechanism. The tune slurs into something unrecognizable. You spot sheet music, plastered under the turntable ink, bleeding into Rorschach patterns. The last legible measure matches a Breton fisherman's chanty about drowned bells. Coincidence or colonial-era plagiarism, either way, it's off-key. Your thumb brushes the turntable. It spins once whining. The proper tempo's etched into the wood, 88 revolutions per minute. Same speed as Edison's first cylinders. 5 oak planks bear initials, LOV, MAB 1919. Manchester Archives list a scullery maid named Mabel Boyd, fired for unsanitary harmonizing. The melody stutters, a sob trapped in its throat. You lean closer, jaw tensed against the dissonance. Cold War radio jammers used similar frequencies to disrupt spy transmissions. This feels more personal, a song gutted by its own history. A moth lands on the needle, wings humming with the A-flat. Your laugh comes out hoarse, the first human sound in minutes. The gazebo's roof creaks, boards contracting like an aging lung. That missing crank handle. Check the wisteria. You spot its silhouette in the vines, a rusted metal bone. Extractions unwise, the whole structure sags like a deflated lung. Touch it, the vine recoils, spilling dew down your wrist. 16th century herbalists prescribed wisteria sap for melancholic humming. The cure was usually worse than the ailment. Night thickens, the melodies down to 2 functional notes, a D and a G, what jazz musicians call the divorce chord. Your temples ache, too much dissonance, not enough resolution. First date vibes. The moth abandons ship, veering toward the Manor's soul-lit window. One last warble the spring unwinds with a death rattle. Silence pools in the gazebo's belly. You press your palm to the turntable, still vibrating like a muted scream. Historians still argue whether mechanical music soothed souls or just gave loneliness better acoustics. Moonlight shifts, the sheet music's stains resolved into a stick figure drawing. A child's work crude, but earnest. Their lullaby now, an inheritance of rust and fractured lullabies. You hum the correct notes under your breath, it's therapy. The gazebo sighs, its planks settling into softer contours. Retreating backwards, you count 17 steps to solid ground. The night folds around the gazebo, a wet napkin on a stain. Your pulse steadies. Somewhere, a cat yowls off-key. The melody doesn't return. Won't. Not tonight. The cat's yowl lingers in your throat as you pivot, boots crunching gravel, turned to charcoal in the dim. Twin lights pierce the hedges ahead, 2 amber discs floating eye level. You freeze, your breath a thin vapor between stars. The fox doesn't blink. Medieval nobles hunted these creatures for sport, calling them fire-tailed thieves. This one's coat is moth-eaten, patches missing like torn upholstery. Its left ear twitches, a queen annoyed by a buzzing subject. Historians still argue whether foxes stole trinkets for pleasure or just enjoyed watching humans stomp through brambles. You kneel, slow fingernails digging into damp soil. 16th century widows believed foxes carried letters between lovers in the afterlife. The creature cocks its head teeth bared in what could be a smirk. A twig snaps behind you, its gaze flicks sideways, currency exchanged. Gone. Wind riffles the undergrowth, a sound like shuffled playing cards. Your pulse betrays you, a drummer missing every third beat. Victorians held mock fox funerals, complete with tiny coffins and tearful eulogies. You spot movement, 10 paces left, the brush trembling where it shouldn't. 3 heartbeats pass. Nothing. Then, a rustle directly ahead. The fox reappears, closer now, one paw raised mid-step. Its tail flicks, a metronome set allegro. Faint scars ladder its flank, parallel lines suggesting claws or wire fencing. You recall an 1800s circus poster, an educated fox that solved arithmetic puzzles. Static climbs your spine, an antenna tuning to dead air. The animal lunges not at you, but past. A vole squeals, silenced mid-protest. You catch the crunch of tiny bones, a sound smaller than regret. It watches you while chewing, eyes never leaving yours. Some say foxes mimic human laughter to lure the lonely. This one's chittering could pass for a chuckle if you squint. Your knees ache from crouching, modern joints, protesting feudal postures. The fox licks its muzzle, wipes a paw over whiskers, theatrical as a stage magician. A car backfires miles away, the fox vanishes. You stand, grass blades imprinting your palms. A single red hair clings to your sleeve, coarser than human. 18th century poachers sold fox pelts as dragon scale to gullible aristocrats. Your shadow stretches toward the trees, too thin, too tentative. The woods exhale dampness, a fungal breath, one drip, then another, rain rehearsing its entrance. You turn back toward the manor, its windows now shuttered. The fox's gaze lingers, a torch snuffed, but still warm. Historians still debate whether their intelligence rivals corvids, or if we just prefer clever liars. Moonlight slicks the path ahead. You walk counting steps to outpace doubt. At the edge of hearing, a final bark, dry as an unknotted rope. The night accepts it without comment. The golden square narrows as you climb the manor steps, lamplight retreating like a shy performer. Your shadow drapes across the study's threshold, too stretched to resemble anything human. The last flame gutters, its wick split like a serpent's tongue. Victorian lamps burned whale oil until Manhattan electrified. This one reeks of burnt almonds and regret. You trace the chair's silhouette, its back stiffer than a butler's spine. Historians still argue whether Prime Minister Gladstone drafted the '87 Irish Coercion Act in a seat just like this. A dust-thick ledger lies open, numbers marching into illegibility. Your thumb smudges an entry. October 12th, 3 bushels turnips, 5 yards morning crepe. Faint grooves mar the desktop, a nervous premier's nail marks, or maybe a housemaid's hairpin boredom. 1900s clockmakers hid skeleton keys in chair legs. Superstitious bastards couldn't trust their own timepieces. You tilt the seat, something rolls inside, a dried pea. The lamp dims, your hands become ghosts, rifling the living. Creak into the cushion, horsehair, prickling through threadbare upholstery. The armrests clutch your elbows, helpful or possessive. 17 minutes past midnight, hour chimes cough in the walls. Light bleeds across a framed map, Constantinople, stippled with moth holes. Footsteps tap the floor above, barely there, the house, remembering its last guest. Ink stains the rug, a Rorschach blot that almost resembles your third-grade teacher. That fox's single hair still clings to your cuff, copper against charcoal wool. Napoleon's librarians shelved books backward to confuse spies. You squint at the titles, volumes reversed, spines murmuring gossip in Latin. The lamp exhales sulfur, a death rattle pitched high enough to shatter wineglass allegories. Darkness floods in as the flame dies, cold as a banker's smile. Your knees pop upright, protesting the 19th century ergonomics. Some claim midnight oil lengthened Dickens sentences, but nobody admits it shortened tempers. The chair retains your shape for 3 heartbeats, springs sighing back into their grudging alignment. Outside, wind riffles the ledger's pages, a bored clerk counting seconds. You exit backward, the way one leaves a chapel or a crime. Moonlight replaces lamp glow, poor substitute. Your palm lingers on the doorframe, wood worn smoother than a wedding band. Historians still debate whether that muted chime was the clock or the house swallowing its secrets. Iron kisses your palm as you grasp the latch, frost blooming where skin meets metal. The gate groans. A tea kettle's whistle slowed to funeral tempo. You lean into its weight, cold climbing your wrists like vine tendrils. 19th century blacksmiths added lead to hinge alloys, kept them from singing in winter winds, or so they claimed. The real reason deadens the sound of midnight exits. Your breath hangs milky in the air, a ghost rehearsing its final speech. The hinges resist, then yield all at once, throwing you forward a half step. Some say English estate gates were built 7 feet tall to deter drunken horseback riders. Others insist it was to frame the manor like a portrait, even when fleeing. Rusted flex pepper, your sleeve, orange confetti for the world's saddest parade. The path beyond slopes downward, gravel traded for moss-slick stones. You glance back. The house sits dark windows, shuttered like a gambler's eyes. Historians still debate whether unlatched gates signaled abandoned properties or elaborate traps for trespassers. That chill at your nape could be the breeze, could be the 1894 Rotham case, where a baronet buried his wife beneath a gateway arch. Just saying. Moonlight glazes the ironwork, transforming rust into constellations. Your shadow stretches ahead, too elongated, as if the darks poured extra into your outline. One hinge sports a crude etching, looks like a child's stick figure, or maybe a poppet. Those wool dolls servants hid in gates to absorb ill fortune. You scrape a fingernail over it, patina crumbs falling like dead skin. Halfway through the arch now, air growing denser smelling, of wet flint and rosemary. The gate sways shut behind you, no breeze to blame. Chains clink, a sound harsher than the Manor's lace-curtained silences. 17 steps beyond the threshold, you hit the first crunch of autumn leaves. Victorian law required property lines to be marked with hawthorn. But these hedges reek of juniper and secrets. A crow croaks overhead, its talons gripping an iron fleur-de-lis. You count 11 spikes on the fence, each crowned with tarnish instead of jewels. That myth about kissing gate handles for luck started when a laundress pocketed stolen silverware claimed the gate blessed her. Your thumb finds a groove in the latch worn smooth by 2 centuries of hands. Maybe a groundskeeper's, maybe a thief's, maybe yours in some damp tomorrow. The metal warms slightly, or maybe that's your blood fleeing the chill. Pause here, where cobblestones surrender to wild grass. The Manor's silhouette shrinks behind you, a paper cutout against gunmetal sky. Some claim gates left ajar weaken the boundary between realms. Let things slip through. You adjust your collar, fabric rasping like a librarian's SHH, and choose a direction. Wind snuffs the moon momentarily as you cross into the unmarked beyond. A cracked leather ledger sprawls open pages warped into miniature mountain ranges. Moonlight etches the inkblot at its center, a Rorschach test only moths could love. Your finger hovers over the stain. 19th century clerks used iron gall ink to prevent forgery. Too bad this estate's finances look forged by a drunk in a hedge maze. Columns bleed together. 2 tens dissolves into 3 pecks barley. A math problem gone feral. Historians still argue whether crooked land agents invented crop failures to hide smuggling. The entry for 12 yards indigo seems sus. Last time you checked, Manor hedges weren't textile mills. A rusty nib juts from the blot split tines, framing your warped reflection. You pluck it free, dried ink rains like carcinogenic glitter. Groundskeeper legend says a junior accountant stabbed this page in 1893, mid-nervous breakdown. His ghost allegedly haunts the west parlor, still muttering about unrecouped seed investments. Coffee rings overlap near the margin timestamps of desperation. Press a thumb to the paper. It sucks moisture like a parched tongue. That myth about Victorian bookkeepers dosing ink with laudanum started when a clerk balanced 30 ledgers in one night, then slept through Queen Victoria's coronation. Your sleeve catches the edge, smearing 7 pounds into 70. Whoops, just invented a budget deficit. Take that, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Flip the page. It crackles like a spine subjected to bad posture. Entries shrink, numbers becoming timid, as if the writer feared their own sums. A pressed violet crumbles from the binding, purple dust on your cuff. Squint at the totals column. Every line ends with the exact same shaky 0. Coincidence? Or proof someone rage quit arithmetic forever? The rancid walnut oil smell suggests both. Wind riffles pages, the ledger slams shut with theatrical flair. Dust mushrooms upward, your sneeze echoes off mildewed shelves. Some claim estates hid treasure maps in depreciation tables. This one diagrams the life cycle of silverfish. The blot remains eternal as numbers dissolve around it. You pocket the broken nib, instant heirloom. Next estate sale, it'll be antique artisan writing implement, priced at 60 quid. Faint scratching follows you out, steel on paper. No hand holding either. Let future archivists wonder if that smudges a stain, or the manor's last scream in ink. Rain taps the window, drops slide down glass like misplaced decimal points. Your damp sleeve leaves a fresh mark on the cover, a modern zero joining ancient ones. Accounting, you decide, is just organized grief. Wind tugs the line, a sagging wire between two rusted hooks. The sheet twists, a pale eel caught mid-wriggle, hem weighted by last night's dew. You stretch to touch it. Cotton snaps away, teasing like the third wish in a folktale. History, tidbit incoming. 18th century laundresses scented linens with rosemary to ward off moths. This sheet smells of rain and maybe regret. The rosemary's long retired. Linen flares, revealing seams patched with horsehair thread. Perfect for scratchy naps, though rumor says estate kids used these as ghost costumes. One loose thread sways, a silver lure. Grab it, the whole fabric shivers, your palm comes away dusty. A faded blue stripe marks where sun couldn't bleach it. Theorists claim servants hung laundry in code patterns during smuggling days. This one's message, probably wash me. Each gust molds the sheet to new shapes. A slumped bishop, a melting swan. Historians still argue whether vanishing bleaching fields caused the 1819 linen panic. The breeze shifts. Now it's a hanged man with socks for feet. Damp fabric slaps your cheek, surprise ice pack. A moth flits out, its wings powdered with lint. Check. The clothesline tiny teeth marks score the wood. Rodent revenge on Tudor-era clothespins. Pull the sagging wire. It hums a bass note. Reverberations race to the poles, dislodging a spider midweb. She rappels down, legs pedaling air, a furry punctuation mark. Your shadow crosses the sheet. Now it's a two-headed dog. Parchment tags dangle from the hem, faded ink spells, MR 1898. Merchants once stenciled laundry marks with crocodile dung ink. Touch one, it crumbles like communion wafer. Sudden stillness, the sheet drops, a deflated parachute. You freeze waiting. Then breeze resurrects it, arms spread wide as Christ the Redeemer. Bonus points if you genuflect for the joke. Blue hour seeps into the fibers. Cotton now the color of TV static. A threadbare patch glows, translucent as a jellyfish. Squint, is that a watermark or the Fraser family crest? Wind dies again. The sheet hugs your face like a drowsy poltergeist. Linen sticks to your lips, tastes of starch and someone else's childhood. Peeling it off sounds like Velcro separating in slow motion. 3 clothespins cling with toddler grip. Pry one loose, its spring twangs, the sheet escapes in a wild bellaflap. They say Lady Fraser wore 11 petticoats at her trial. This fabric's full rebellion. Darkness thickens, the white shape pulses like a jellyfish in ink. Reach once more, your fingers graze threads gone cold. It darts up, a spectre finning through night's aquarium. You retreat, one heel grinds a clothespin into the dirt. Let archivists dig it up next century. Future relic, 21st century, fool versus Victorian textiles. The sheet flaps its goodbye for nows as you turn toward the gate. It'll keep rehearsing ghosthood, all elbows and sheet music, until dawn rolls it up like a diploma. Your heel grinds gravel into the oak's nearest root, the crackle of ancient bark protesting modern souls. Knots bulge through the path, 100 arthritic knuckles claiming what pavement stole. Twilight pools where roots dip, puddles of shadow cold as cellar steps. English oaks once fueled the Royal Navy's warships, each trunk a victory waiting to be splintered. This one outlived empires, its lower boughs scarred with initials that predate light bulbs. Stoop, press your ear to a root fork. The sap hums like distant road noise. Cold seeps through your jeans where knees touch the bark. Someone's carved a spiral here, rough as a child's crayon sun. And now rumor says compasses spin wild within its grooves. To your left, a root twists skyward, a petrified serpent mid-strike. Step carefully. This is half tree, half trapdoor spider. Soil parts around the gnarled toes, black as printer toner. 16th century vintners buried oak chips in wine to cool tempers during communion. Dig a pinky in the loam, resists heavy with centuries of compacted secrets. Wind shivers the canopy, dead leaves spiral like burnt paperwork. Historians still argue whether Saxon boundary oaks marked burial sites or liquor smuggling routes. A root shifts underfoot, maybe a shrug, maybe a warning. Moss crescents glow neon where moonlight bleeds through branches. Flashlight beams or fey road markers if you swing that way. Peel back a lichen flap. Wood beneath shines unnaturally smooth, sanded by generations of nervous thumbs. Your shadow merges with the trunk, a two-dimensional stain. Press your palm to the bark, it pulses. Could be your own heartbeat, could be groundwater thrumming through capillaries. Hangnails snag on ridges, fingerprints left on something older than fingerprints. A root caves inward, black soil exhales cellar breath. Kneel, craning to see where roots dive. They say Elizabethan witches brewed acorn, paste to hollow out graves faster. The darkness below smells of iron and burnt honey. Crouch lower, wrist deep, in leaf mulch. Your phone light catches quartz veins in the roots, glittering like termite trails. 18th century journal entries mention treasure buried beneath the king oak, though no one ever specified which king. Rainwater trickles between roots, a silver thread vanishing underground. Trace it, fingertips numb instantly, as if the tree sweats liquid nitrogen. Tudor plumbers once grafted lead pipes onto oaks for natural piping. The gout outbreaks were legendary. Ants march across your shoelace, tiny imperialists claiming new territory. Crushed petiole sap stings your palm, tart as unripe blackberries. Lean back, the trunk cradles your spine. It's warmer here than expected. Almost alive. Moonlight snags on a root-split flint arrowhead. Iron Age or Boy Scout project. Either way, it's wedged where no rain can reach. Your thumbnail chips at the edge. Sulfur sparks die before they're born. Deep roots thud, a slow war drum vibrating through molars. Could be wind, could be groundwater, could be 500 years of gossip stored in lignin. You rise, pine sap and vertigo gluing your knees together. The path beyond buckles like a frozen river, roots heaving cobblestones into stumbling teeth. Your next step lands on an acorn. It crunches. The sound echoes upward. Somewhere, a squirrel files a noise complaint. Walk on boots, following root ridges like dorsal fins. Soil temperatures drop 3 degrees per inch down here. Science fact. Your souls remember every dip and bulge now. They'll dream of topography tonight. Turn for one last look. The oak's silhouette blots out 3 constellations. Its roots yawn wide, a black asterisk correcting the earth's bland text. Your eyelids dip, the manor blurs, edges dissolving. Let the dark cradle you, no dreams, just this. Grass molds to your shoulders, 1,000 tiny hands adjusting their grip. Twilight's last pigments drain from the petals above their edges, now charcoal smudges. Air sits heavy, scented with soil, exhaling the day's warmth. Your pulse taps a Morse code even the earth ignores. Victorian gardeners built moon-viewing pavilions for aristocrats to sleep correctly aligned with constellations. Your cheek presses a root, its knots imprinting temporary constellations of their own. A beetle skitters over your wrist, its legs tickling like misamed acupuncture. Coolness climbs your calves, night's tide pooling in every hollow. 17th century herbalists claimed ground ivy could sow the soul to the body during sleep. Breathe in mildew and mown clover, stitch themselves to your ribs. Shadows condense into shapes. A far hedge becomes a black ocean. Your fingers brush something smooth, a sundial's bronze face buried in the lawn. 18th century eccentrics used them as pillows, believing noon could be stored in metal. Knead the cold surface. No time leaks out, just static humming through fillings. Wind combs the willow fronds, their whispers blending with your slowing breath. Historians still argue whether manor gardens were designed for meditation or tiring out servants. A moth alights on your knee, wings dusting denim with tarnished silver. The oak's roots hum below, sub-bass notes felt more than heard. 19th century sleep studies hypothesized trees emitted soporific vapors at dusk. Your exhale unspools, a ribbon fraying into the humid air. Stars pivot overhead. The Big Dipper's handle pours darkness instead of light. Your jaw slackens, teeth parting like garden gates, left unlatched. Tongue tastes moss, iron, the ghost of a raindrop evaporated hours ago. Muscles unravel one tendon at a time, a dropped marionette surrendering to gravity. A distant owl hoots, its wisdom questionable, but its timing impeccable. Blinks stretch longer, each reopening reveals fewer peonies, more void. Palms face upward, accepting nothing, offering less. Night air polishes your knuckles to obsidian. Circa 1893, a Parisian sleep guru sold vegetal lullabies recorded via rose thorns and gramophones. Your ears ache, straining for melodies only roots comprehend. Moonlight bleeds across your throat, a cold blade without edge or mercy. Skin puckers, not from chill, from the garden's gaze pressing its luck. Fingers curl a feeble protest, then fall open neutral. Weight seeps from your limbs, levitation by absence rather than magic. The Manor's windows shutter themselves, one by one, like cautious eyelids. A thorn pricks your heel, last punctuation before the sentence dissolves. Breath sinks with cricket rhythms, inhales snapping twigs, exhales scattering leaf litter. Somewhere, a fish leaps in the lily pond, splash muffled by layers of dusk. Darkness clots in your ears, a velvet gag silencing tomorrow's to-do list. An Elizabethan farrier once patented sleeping gloves filled with rosemary and grave dirt. Your left pinky twitches, final semaphore before mutiny. The horizon folds, grass meeting sky in a starless crease. Astronomers mapped this garden in 1927, declared its lilacs minor comets with abandonment issues. Nerves flicker once, a dying lantern, then submit. Taste fades first, iron replaced by absence, tongue a neutral tenant. Then sound, the world's volume knob twisting counterclockwise, tooth by tooth. Pressure builds behind your eyes, the brain's final overclock before shutdown. Last sensation, a ladybug traversing your collarbone, 6 legs telegraphing mercy. You sink, but the ground rises, a negotiated surrender. The dark doesn't smother, it suspends. Historians never mention how English soil holds heat like a guilt-ridden parent. Cells unclench, a billion doors swinging open to nothing. Night blooms exhale their pollen, sticking to your stilled lashes. Silence isn't empty here, it's tensile. A spider silk hammock strung between seconds. The Manor's outline erodes, soft as sugar in tea. Clocks in the east wing freeze, their hands clutched in prayer. Your last coherent thought, they should put warning labels on Twilight. Then nothing negotiable. Your eyelids dip, the Manor softens at the edges, fading into the embrace of twilight. Let the dark hold you, no demands, no stories, just the quiet. Grass presses gently against your shoulders, 1,000 silken fingers cradling your shape. Petals lose their last hues, blending with the charcoal sky. Soil breathes out warmth, a low hum beneath your spine. Your heartbeat slows, a pocket watch wrapped in velvet. Moonlit pavilions drift in memory, their purpose now your own. A root cradles your cheek, its knots mapping harmless constellations. Beetle footsteps trace your wrist, light as dandelion fluff. Cold seeps upward, gentle as watercolor pooling in a bowl. Ground ivy weaves through your thoughts, stitching loose threads of awareness. Breathe in clover, and damp earth anchor you to the now. Hedges melt into the horizon waves of shadow without motion. Fingertips graze bronze, a sundial buried like a forgotten secret. Cold metal hums, not with hours, but the static of paused time. Press closer, its chill a lullaby for restless hands. Willows sway, their whispers merging with your own slowing breath. Debate fades. Was this piece designed for lords or laborers? A moth brushes your knee, wing dust glinting like tarnished starlight. Oak roots thrum a vibration older than sleep science. Soporific vapors rise, not poison, but the garden's held exhale. Your lungs empty, air unraveling into velvet nothing. Stars shift, the dipper spills darkness like warm ink. Your jaw unclenches, gates opening to let night pass through. Moss coats your tongue, sweet iron, a raindrop's ghost. Muscles slacken strings, snipped one by one. An owl calls, its advice irrelevant, but soothing. Blinks linger, peonies dissolve, void cradles you. Palms open, expecting nothing. Night air buffs your skin to smooth stone. Forgotten gramophones play root songs, your ears too heavy to translate. Moonlight pales your throat, a blade sheathed in gossamer. The garden stares, you stop resisting. Fingers loosen, surrendered to do. Weight evaporates, not flight, but the absence of pull. Windows dim, each pane a closing eye. A thorn nips your heel, the world's last comma. Breath matches cricket wings. Inhales lift fallen petals. Exhales settle them. Ripples spread in the lily pond, fish kisses swallowed by dusk. Darkness fills your ears, muffling every should and when. Rosemary whispers through imagined gloves, grave soil as neutral as ash. Your pinky stills, its protest spent. Sky folds into grass, a seam stitched by patient hours. Lilacs hum forgotten, orbits their light trapped in velvet pods. Nerves dim, a lantern doused. Taste vanishes, iron to emptiness, tongue adrift. Sound follows, volume knob rusted at 0. Pressure blooms behind your eyes, a final firework sinking into ash. A ladybug crosses your collarbone, dots spelling enough in braille. You sink, earth rises, a mutual yielding. Soil cradles without judgment, warm as overdue forgiveness. Cells soften, doors ajar, no wind demands entrance. Night flowers dust your cheeks, pollen unpaid in daylight. Silence thrums, not emptiness, but the space between harp strings. Manor walls blur sugar cubes in midnight tea. Clock hands still, prayers unanswered but peaceful. Your mind's last whisper. Twilight was always soft deception, then gentle surrender.